to China's past. Writing. The Chinese language is written in pictographs or pictures that represent words. Many characters in the Chinese language have been written in similar ways for very long periods of time. So instead of writing an alphabet like we do, each picture represents a word, or each symbol represents a word. Here's another example of some Chinese writing. We are going to be learning about a few dynasties in China, and the first one is the Xia legendary period. It is from 2000 to 1700 BC. The tales of the Xia formed a bridge between prehistory and the time when Chinese history began to be formally recorded. So this was before they were writing, and so just stories and legends have been passed down. The Shang dynasty was the first dynasty, and it was between 1760 to 1500 BC. Farming was the way of life for most people in the Huang River Valley at this time. During the Shang dynasty, bronze was used for many kinds of tools, cups, and weapons, as well as trade goods. The Bronze Age was a period during which tools and weapons were made of bronze. Also, oracle bones were commonly used during the Shang dynasty to predict the future. So rituals were very important to these people, and so they would take deer or oxen bones and ask questions such as what crops to plant or when to travel or hunt, and then they would heat the shells or the bones, and they would examine them for cracks, and this would tell them about future events. Here's another example of an oracle bone, and then the cracks in their writing is on it. The longest dynasty was the Zhou dynasty, and it was actually split into two parts. But the whole dynasty was from 1027 to 221 BC. So the Western Zhou was the first dynasty from 1027 BC to 770 BC. Most people were farmers who grew wheat, rice, beans, and fruit. Society was organized so farmers worked small areas of land and contributed food and valuables to the king, and silk was an important product for the Zhou economy. The Eastern Zhou was the second part of this long dynasty from 770 BC to 221 BC. The period of time often is referred to as the Golden Age in China. A new system of money encouraged trade and the economy thrived. The government started projects that included flood control, irrigation, and canal building. People built huge walls around some towns along the northern border to keep out nomadic and wandering people. Traditions were being challenged and new ideas emerged. More people were becoming scholars, teachers, and government officials. The Qin dynasty was from 221 to 206 BC. Shi Huangdi was the first emperor under this dynasty, and he began building the Great Wall of China with hundreds of thousands of laborers. Here is a picture, Shi Huangdi. And here is a picture of the Great Wall. And then if you take a look at this map below here, you can see how long the Great Wall stretched through China. The Han Dynasty was from 206 BC to 220 AD. The Han Dynasty eventually stretched as far south as what are today the countries of Vietnam and Cambodia. To improve transportation, Wu Di built new roads. Sima Qian wrote the first complete history book of China. Women became more educated. Another contribution to China under Wu Di was civil service, the practice of using skills and talents to work in the government. A lot of inventions came out of this time, such as porcelain and paper and ink. In the 2nd century, China had only one way to connect with the rest of the world, and this is through the Silk Road. This road was actually more than just one route that went through northern China and across Central Asia to the lands of the Roman Empire. And we'll learn about this when we study Rome and medieval Europe. The Silk Road was very important to all these civilizations. The Chinese exported silk and porcelain, which are things they made and they sold to these other civilizations. They also imported things they needed, like glass, gold, and horses. Middlemen traveled along the route to carry on trade between buyers and sellers. That is the end of lesson 2.